Thank you, everybody, for joining. We're going to start. So, welcome, everybody. Today in the room, we have Peter Taylor and we have Luc Roy. And thank you, Peter and Luc, for taking time out of your...
So, welcome, everybody.
Oops, sorry. I'm listening to myself over
Today
here.
in the room.
Our live stream is working. at least we know the live stream is working right now. So just wanted to set some context in terms of why we're having this conversation around new tech, new problems. And wanted to share with you a business BDC study that just came out recently. BDC is a Business Development Bank of Canada, and they are key participants in sharing this particular digital adoption program that's being made available to small to medium-sized businesses. And the interesting fact from BDC is simply this, is businesses who currently they spent $120,000 on average in 2020 to adopt new digital technologies. And these businesses have tried to adopt the technology within their business. So they've purchased it, they've tried to adopt it, and only 5% of them have been successful. And so we have two very, very knowledgeable folks in the room today, Peter Taylor and Luc, and I will get them to introduce themselves. So let's go with Peter.
Hello, thank you, Neha, and thank you everybody for joining. And Luc, who's been a colleague of mine for a while, it's nice to be presenting with him as well. I'm the Director of Information Technology at the City of Greater Sudbury. I've spent my whole career has been in information technology. I've delivered technical solutions or been participating in a team and necessarily with the users who need to be involved in implementing successful technology projects in telecom companies, financial services, healthcare, government. So I've seen a lot of different business areas. And not only that, but working at the City of Greater Sudbury is just to give you a little bit of context of that. The City of Greater Sudbury is actually made up of a lot of different business units. So you'll have waste management, you'll have water management, you'll have road construction. Each of those needs to apply technology, and the city is looking to digitally transform itself as well. And we're working heavily on that. So each of those businesses has to implement and adopt technologies. So there's some of that experience that I'll bring today. So I look forward to the conversation.
And bonjour à tous. Salut Peter again and Nia. So my name is Luc Roy. Bonjour. I am the CIO at Laurentian University. And we manage about 200 different systems at Laurentian University. One of them is the big one, which is the business system, and requires a lot of dexterity in terms of running and so on. That's why I'm looking forward to discuss this. I also come with the background of having done 6 startups, 4 of them in California, 2 of them in Toronto. 5 of the 6 highly successful. And I also own a small business with my wife. We own a small coffee roasting company called Old Rock. So I'll be speaking predominantly about Université Laurentienne, Laurentian University, but I'll put it in perspective for those who have small businesses. Nia, I think you're on mute.
I'm on mute. Thank you for telling me I'm on mute. So thank you so much for the introduction. And the first question that I'm going to jump into today is basically why we're here, is talking about new technology. The first question is, does the procurement of new technology truly help transform a business? Because a lot of people keep buying new tech. So is that really what helps transform a business? So I'm going to start with you, Luke, and then go to Peter.
So for me, to be honest, new technology definitely helps transform a business. Procurement of new technology does not necessarily help transform a business. And this is the, when you put the words together, you have to, that's why I'm providing that little insight, because I've seen it fail and I've seen it win in both cases. So new technology definitely helps transform a business.
Peter,
you can go next.
Okay. Yeah, and totally agree with what Luke said, and I'll just add to that. I've witnessed business groups who have purchased for example, a CRM system. They purchase one CRM system because they think it's going to change their life. They put in that CRM system. It doesn't change their life. They go off and buy a second CRM system. And I've actually seen where there's a thought, and I'm not saying that was here at the city, but I have seen the example of that. And I think one of the key things that when you start really thinking about the success, I've also seen successful projects, very successful projects. And what you tend to find with the successful projects is right from the get-go, you get a very engaged business team. So whoever those leaders in the business and those influencers in the business get very engaged early on and really want to define something and envision something that they can deliver on early on. They work through their business processes that need to be worked on, like where are the problems, what do they want to accomplish, and they will oftentimes, if they don't have the knowledge, they'll engage somebody who can help give them that research and help guide them maybe in the management of what their process. Then they go out and they select their technology, and then they're engaged in that new technology that they bought. They also they have some ownership in that, stake in that, and they work their new workflows into that new technology, and then they own the adoption. So adoption is key, and as Luke said, I mean, technology is a component of it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love technology or I wouldn't be doing this job, but technology needs people.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter, for that. So Luke, what are your thoughts on Peter's response right there? Like, because he made some very salient points in terms of user buy-in, because they decided on certain new tech and then went and procured it. So just give me some thoughts from the Laurentian perspective.
What Peter said was kind of a detailed response, and absolutely true. If I want to simplify what Peter said, and I'll give it a try, is a lot of people think technology is an IT tool, but it's not. It's a business tool, and the business owner needs to own it. So what is IT's role at the end of the day? If you want to simplify it, it is simply making sure the server has power or you can log in. It's simple as that. If you involve IT to say, hey, how do you work this function? How do you work the payroll system so it actually pays this way? Wrong place to ask. It's not IT. Now, through the years, I know there's a lot of IT people listening. You will say, well, we know what it is. Well, yes, the smart IT teams understand how it's supposed to work, but the answer should come from the business units, not IT. And it's basically exactly what I said, or what I'm saying is exactly what Peter has said.
That's amazing. Thank you. That was a really great addition to that, because I'm actually thinking of a new question that I hadn't asked of, was that the role of IT, but that'll be towards the end. So you sparked a new question for me. So my next question is basically, when should a company really think about buying a new piece of tech versus reuse what they already have in their backyard? And, whoever wants to go first, feel free.
Well, I can go first. Peter, are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
So I'll keep it simple. A good time to reevaluate if you should move on is if you have actually exhausted its capabilities. And when I say exhausted, it's not, oh, I don't like this system because I don't like this menu. That's not exhaustive. No, you need to adapt to how the menu maybe works. But exhaustive could say, listen, I'm trying to get all of these reports and the system doesn't allow me to do so. And in fact, only allows me to do this much. Then you've exhausted its capabilities. So I'll leave it to that.
Yeah, that was honestly a very good response. One of the things too that one of the things that we look for when we're trying to do technology is we look for somebody to create a proposal too. And in creating that proposal, they've got to be able to express the value, the ROI on what they're going to do. So if you can create the business case that says, yes, if I invest in this new technology, and that business case has to reflect not only the cost of the technology, but the cost of your organization to adopt that technology and actually use it. But if you can create a business case that says, yeah, I've got a good ROI on this particular thing that I want to do, then you're starting to think from, as Luc said, it's a business decision to move into new technology. So if you can express it as your business decision, it fits into your business plan, you're making money off of it, or you're saving money by doing it, then it makes sense to do.
That's awesome. Thank you, Peter. I'm now going to add in that question that Luc just sparked for me. And that question is something you haven't heard yet because we didn't rehearse this question, but that's why we bring it up. So how is the role of the IT department changing over time, especially now? So when we're going in and we're doing the Canada Digital Adoption Program, so it's really advice that I'm looking for from you guys, because this is what I have been proposing, and maybe we're doing it wrong. So I just want to kind of get feedback from you, because I'm like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. So, in certain businesses, say there were 10 employee businesses, and then they have dedicated IT support. For those businesses, we're saying, well, you could think about changing the IT role to a digital adoption role, so they could actually monitor whether the reports on whether people are using the tech or not, for smaller businesses. For larger ones, we're saying the managers and the supervisors have to monitor digital adoption, which means are users logging into the system? Are they doing those particular types of changes? So I'm just really curious, because you both run IT departments. Have you employed different types of roles? Are you thinking about, embedding digital adoption into IT? Are you thinking about business owners, need to take on a bigger role, or what have you? So that's really where the question is coming from, because there is a need for a change, but we just don't know where that need is, because digital technology is not stopping. You're not going to ever be like, oh, we're done. You're never done, right? So whoever wants to go first.
Peter, you want to go, or do you want me to go?
Sure, I'll take this one. So how is the role of the IT department changing? I think it's a really, really good question. I think it leads on from the last discussion that we just had. Technology is changing, the driver of technology, we want to be the business. So The way one of the ways I think of it is that the role of the IT department is like your good, trusted mechanic. But the actual person who's driving the car and who needs to get in that car and drive it every day is the business unit. So if you think of it almost like like there's the race car driver, and then there's the good, trusted mechanic who's keeping that race car and making sure that it's running down the track. So that's what I see. So now when you start looking at it in that respect, basically what you've got is you got a team that needs to be involved in order to win that. If you're trying to win that race, you've got a team that you need to engage in that. So the business, without the business, and I get back to, without the business being heavily engaged in the project and involved all along right from the beginning, and the business is the one who's championing adoption, you're not going to win that race. You need those trained drivers of that new car. So anyways, I don't know if that analogy worked, but I tried it.
I love it. I love it.
Well, I'm going to use it. Hey, so we built on it. So well done, Peter. So IT is changing, that it's becoming more about information. And although, to Peter's point, it's still responsible for changing those tires and all that stuff, it's more about the information. And what I mean by that is that when somebody from the city comes to you, Peter, and says, I need a vehicle, you're probably going to advise them or ask them questions before you advise them. And therefore, based on what they ask for, it could be a tractor, it could be, a police vehicle, it could be just a truck to drive around to fix potholes, it could be a garbage truck. But you don't know this unless you've asked the questions. And that's what IT is becoming. Those really strong IT people are asking all the key questions. Now, to Peter's point, businesses still need to be involved, because if you're not clear on your requirements, you may want a race car, but you'll end up with a garbage truck. So because you'll think, hey, I want more tires. Well, yeah, garbage trucks has more tires than a race car, but doesn't go faster. So that's the ever changing of IT. Is becoming more about information.
So one question I'm going to add a follow-up question here, because the role of the IT department is changing a little bit, but Peter talked about the role of the business unit, right? So how is the role of the business unit changing now? So I'm going to get you to start with that, Luke, because I don't think that business units have had as much of a role in technology implementation in the past. They've relied so much on IT for it. So what would you recommend that the role of how would the role of the business unit change?
So I'll start. So back in the old days, I'll say it this way, we needed an email system. Well, the entire implementation was IT, and IT probably provided training on how to use the email. But today, it's not like that. Today, it's more about how do I run a payroll system? And that's why business units have to be involved. So what does that mean for business people? You need to have digital dexterity. If you're going to evaluate somebody to be in charge of an environment, they better have digital dexterity. And that's one of the requirements we apply at Laurentian University, is to do exactly that. So I'll stop here, but that's the where we need business people to be at.
So I'm going to keep you on the hot seat, Luke, because there is a lot of small to medium-sized businesses that will watch this, and they're going to ask a follow-up question, which is, what is digital dexterity in your opinion? How would you define that?
Yeah, so digital dexterity is about having, an ability to learn technology. So you're technology literate. It doesn't mean you know the system you're going to buy, but you have the ability to learn it. And the other aspect is you have the willingness to learn it. So those who come in and saying, oh, I'm not technical, so I'm not going to learn this, you fail the digital dexterity. or if you think you're going to call IT for support, it's not going to work because you need to get involved with this. So that's the big thing. Now, for smaller businesses, my good Lord, you may only have 2 or 3 people in your business. And what are the chances you're going to have digital dexterity? Well, you need the digital aptitude to realize that you don't have dexterity. And that's when you rely on experts. So, for example, we at Old Rock, just like Laurentian University, we're a Google shop. They make it easier for us. So that's in a way to really advance things without having to install your own emails system. So this is just an example.
That's excellent. Thank you, Luke. So I'm going to ask the original question to Peter now, in terms of what is your opinion on how the role of the business unit is changing? Because you did touch on that, Peter, but I think just a little bit more thoughtful response on, because you've seen business units over time, right? And
yeah, and one of my great beliefs, getting back to it, is if you want digital transformation in the organization, it has to be driven by the business units. And I think Luke spoke to it, is they need that digital dexterity and that digital aptitude, the ability to apply, to see the value of applying digital technologies to their business units needs to be a skill that business unit managers need, just like they need to have some skills in finance, some skills in people management. They also have to have some skills at applying technology to their business problems. So I think the role is changing. Definitely the role has changed here at the city. We have digital governance for the city. So the digital direction for the city is actually governed by a set of business leaders. And I participate in that group as well, but I'm one IT person in amongst 4 other business unit leaders who are deciding on the direction. And I think whether you're a small or a large organization or a medium organization, it needs that, as Luke said, that digital aptitude has to be there, that digital direction, and an organizational envisioning of what digital transformation means for them.
Awesome. And so my follow-up question to that, Peter, is, have you found that your business units, so for other folks who when you talk about business units, we're talking about departments. So have you found that department leaders have that conscious awareness that needs to happen, and how have they adapted? Not necessarily just at the city, of course, everywhere, right? And I'll ask that question to you as well, Luke, after.
Well, I think this is a change for everybody. So I think, like any change, you have some early adopters. So you had some people who wanted to do this all along, and they're just ready to go. And I think it's a change not only for business units, it's a change for information technology organizations. Because as Luke had said, this is a change for us as information technology organizations, because in the past we might have been able to come out, oh, here's your solution. Now that's not the case. That's like it's having that partnership on defining what the problem is and driving it forward. So I think we have some early adopters. We have some. I would say we're probably in the mid stage, where we have. In this particular organization, most are in the mid stage, where we have people are of adoption, of that change, and they've adopted that process of being very engaged and involved in their projects, and it does prove successful. And it's not just here; it's any place.
Absolutely, it's that buy-in. So, Luke, what is your thoughts on that? Have you seen departments adapt?
Adapting is hard. Let's face it, because we're used to do things on our own. So let me give you an example, which I hope is going to bring some light on how you can change. We were hiring for an admin inside of our IT team, and we've had 2 candidates, and we asked them, can you create a budget, put the line items, figure out, share it, and then have a meeting with everybody so we can review it. It's a very simple task. Again, it was an IT position, but anybody can ask that question. The first candidate says, no problem. I'll send an email to everybody to see who's available. I'll create a spreadsheet. I'll send the spreadsheets to everybody by email. And then once they reply, then I'll create the meeting. That was the first candidate. Sounds good, right? The second candidate, I'm going to create a shared document so everybody can see it. I'm going to look in everybody's calendar to see when people are available. I'm going to put the meeting in there and put the link to the document to say, we are here to review it. Please spend, 30 minutes to review. Which one is better? Can you see that second person had the digital dexterity just to do something beyond what is the normal use? And that's just a prime example.
That's awesome. I think that's very, very, very insightful when you share that specific story and that specific experience is, Peter, have you had something like that?
I was just going to add in a point. I think that is one of the things I think as organizations are advancing, I think that's one of the things that we all need to do is we need to concentrate, or we need to have some focus on building what Luc has named digital dexterity. We need digital aptitude in organizations, and like I said, we do have digital aptitude, but we've got to spread that in organizations. And as Luc said, and he's hiring for digital aptitude or digital dexterity. That's another thing that needs to be done as well. So these are all really good things, and it really gets to the point. You can't just buy technology. You need to have the people who can drive that technology.
And Gaston Roy, who may or may not be related to Peter, but also the Chief Information Officer, previous Chief Information Officer from the hospital, says, great analogy, Peter. So it was awesome. As we're going along, I'm just going to put a plug into Peter and Luc right now, because I do think we probably need a separate discussion on digital dexterity, because I think that's a really important topic. Is business units need to learn how to enable and create digital dexterity within their business. So I think we got the right crew here, and maybe we'll get Gaston to join us.
Yeah, and can I actually tease a little bit on digital dexterity? A lot of people are saying, who are the best? Which age group is the best for digital dexterity? Well, from my experience, those that are over 50 and over 55 are the best, including the really young ones. It's the ones in the middle that are actually not as good, because they want a system for themselves, not for collaborative use. And that's what I've seen in my own experience. So Nia, I think it's a great topic to have.
I think I'm recruiting you right now to do to do that conversation, because we had talked about digital dexterity a while ago, but it's so relevant right now, and how you increase that. And what you just said there, Luc, was a teaser, because it's definitely something that I wouldn't have necessarily guessed. So, but I could see the truth in it. So Peter, are we all signed up for digital dexterity another time?
If I get to present with Luc, yes.
Okay.
I want to mention, for those of you who may not know, we in Sudbury are not a big town, but all the CIOs, so Peter, myself, Gaston, when he used to work, now he's retired, lucky guy, and other CIOs, we all get together regularly and we exchange ideas. In fact, Peter was very helpful on a very specific issue I had. And that's another sign of good digital dexterity, because you're humble enough to talk to everybody and collaborate with everybody. So
that's
fun.
amazing.
It's fun working with Peter and Gaston.
That's excellent. It's collaboration definitely goes a very, very long way. So one of the other questions that I'm now going to ask, and it was the question I did warn you about. So this one's shouldn't be super hard right now. And the question is, people use the terms digital transformation synonymous with digital adoption. They use those terms interchangeably and things like that. So do you see I see a difference between the two terms, but do you see a difference? And it's really your opinion on, when do you use the term digital transformation? What does that mean to you? And what does digital adoption mean to you?
So I see my visage there up front, so I'll start. So I'll say it in a very simple way. Digital transformation is a business initiative, while digital adoption is really focused on users to adopt it, digitally. So I see it as complementary, but I see them as two different things.
Peter?
Yeah. This is a hard question, honestly, and because both of the terms are fairly broad terms. So, but I'll go with my take on digital transformation. So my take on digital transformation is it needs digital adoption to make it happen. It can't happen by itself. So it is, to me, it's the business leaders, the informed business leaders, engaging with some informed mechanics who can give them some good advice, who are now deciding how is the organization going to leverage technology. So does that mean that we're going to have this omni-channel experience where somebody can come to our brick and mortar place, they can get the same products online, they can chat with us 24 hours a day? I don't know, whatever that means, but from where they are today to where they are tomorrow is kind of now it's like I said, it's a pretty broad term, so it's everything in between that gets you from there to there. But digital transformation can't work without the digital dexterity and the digital adoption. So the two, I'll reuse that term, but without digital adoption, it's never going to work, because you've got to. You can't just put in the technology in that stream that you're getting to digital transformation. It becomes part of the business, and it's got to be something that is part of the business. I also see that digital transformation you can envision where you're going with digital transformation. So it can actually almost be projectized. Digital adoption, I don't think, can be. Digital adoption is longitudinal. It's going to just happen for your organization. Just has to continue to do that forever. Like I said, it was a hard question. I'd almost like to Google the definitions of it the next time I answer it.
Thanks, Peter. It definitely is a hard question because words are just words, and they mean so many different things to the people that hear the words, right? And so when we go in to implement, the first thing is clarify vision. We talk about that, because if I don't know if anyone's attending any of my Lego sessions, but we give out 7 pieces of Lego to groups of 100, and we'll say build a duck. And when we say build a duck, we have 100 different versions of a duck with the same Lego pieces. So that clarification of terminology is so important, and the standardization of that terminology is so important. So thank you for bringing that particular piece up. So right now, I'm just going to take a pause to sort of check in with you, because I'm going to put a call out to the audience to say, if you want to ask any questions, ask them. And I'm going to let you and Peter and Luke, just FYI, what happens is there's about a 10-second delay from when we ask something to when they hear it. So it'll be a little bit of time before they pipe in with questions and things like that. So I'm going to ask a very generic question. What is a significant lesson that you have learned in the last little bit when it's coming to transitioning, like post pandemic, right? So post pandemic, we've had to transform really significantly. Is there something that stands out for you? Is there something that you've seen, like a major shift in beyond, remote work and that kind of stuff? So what is there something that you've seen that's a lesson learned that you think, wow, like, I didn't expect that, and that's what really happened beyond the black swan event of the pandemic, right? Because nobody expected that. So I just want I'm putting it out there to see if anybody wants to jump on that question.
I'll take a first stab at it then. I think one of the things that one of the things that I enjoyed with the pandemic, and I hope it continues, is a little bit of a tolerance for incompleteness. Like we were able, like during the pandemic, because we needed things fast, we were able to put out sometimes something that was the minimum product that would meet, it meets the key needs, but it was far more accepted by the community than I think it would have been if it wasn't the urgency wasn't there. And I have seen that continue. I've seen that continue, that people have. That's a learning. I think that's a technological learning. So I think and it's an organizational learning. So I'd want to continue. I'm hoping that momentum continues. Of that. Okay, we're okay to take the minimum viable product. Sorry that I just named what they're called in the industry. Sorry for anybody who's not familiar with the term, but I'm willing to take that thing that meets my minimum functional needs. And I trust that you're going to work to expand upon that in the future. So that's one of the things I found that was good about the pandemic. There's other parts that I wasn't too happy about, but like being home all the time.
I'll just add while people may submit some. So to me, it's organization. So, if it quacks like a duck, I have to use your duck analogy, Nia. It has to be driven from the president, period. There's some projects then can actually be driven by other groups, absolutely. But it has to be an accepted initiative right up to the top. And when I say organization, experience, don't do a project where or digital transformation when you have changes of the guards, because you have to redo it all over again. Know your roles and responsibilities. Know the delineation between responsibilities between different organizations. Finance, payroll, HR, and we can keep on going. Sometimes those lines are blurry. So those are things that you can do before you start to make sure that it's like having your warriors all lined up. You know who's doing what. And then before you go to war, that's really important.
That I love that, because I love the change of, don't do digital don't do the transformation during the change of the guard, because people miss out on that context as to why you're doing it. So the leaders are unable to drive change through and through as we go through. So one of my last questions, because we're almost coming up at the 10:45 mark, is for businesses out there that are now being allocated these funds to just develop a technology adoption roadmap. So basically what we're doing, going into businesses, clarifying what the current leadership thinks priorities are, clarifying how they measure these priorities, and then moving into designing a change roadmap and a digital technology roadmap for the businesses. And so what would you say to those businesses that are don't really understand the value of something like that. Like they don't really understand what's the point. Because if I'm an entrepreneur, I'm just like, let's just do it, let's just finish it, let's just pay for it, let's just get it out of the way. Do you have any advice for businesses in terms of how they might leverage the services of a consultant like us to come in, help them organize their thinking to take their business to the next level?
So I'll speak from a small business, and it also applies for the larger ones.
Mm-hmm.
Have curiosity, ask questions. We all love NIA, and you just don't sign up a contract because you like NIA. No, you don't do that. NIA, I know most people, some people may, but no, the point is ask questions. And as your curiosity leads you, it will identify maybe opportunities or things to fix, efficiencies, and so on. And that's really important. It's almost like the lean process. For those of you who are aware of this, this is take an existing process and you apply the lean methodology, and then you make it a lot more efficient. That's, to me, it's all about curiosity, willingness to have the discussion.
I love it. I think that's and curiosity is one of our number one values. Look, when we get on a call with we look for a fit and we ask questions. We are not presenting anything. We just ask a whole bunch of questions. So that's great. Peter, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think and I think leading on, following up with the asking the questions, and I'm gonna go with the word fit that you used. I think one of the things you're looking for, and whenever you're doing it, when you're engaging with anybody or you're looking for assistance for anybody, you're looking for the fit. So what some of the questions I would ask, so getting back to the question part, I'd question, what is the process that they're going to take me through so that I can understand the process? And I think that's one of the values that organizations can get, is that these will be proven processes, or they're processes that are proven successful, that are going to take, are going to come through looking at what the objectives, looking at the engagement. And I won't talk about whole processes because I'll relay mine, but you got to look at the process that they're going to have that is actually that you feel is going to give you a game plan at the end, a feasible game plan at the end that then you can take and follow through on. I think all of that, any process that comes in, though, my one piece of advice would be make sure that it involves your team fairly directly in that process, because you don't want some process where where somebody's come in and they went through the whole process, but then they walked away and we've got nothing left. So that would be it. Fit is another thing. Another point on fit is some comparatives that are similar to the organization, to your organization, would be one of the things I'd be looking for as well, because you're looking for them to provide some advice, and they're helping you with your research. They're helping, and Luke talked about that as well. They're helping to embed some knowledge in your organization, because at the end of the day, you want them to walk you through a process, engaged your team, embedded you with some knowledge, and you got a plan that's feasible.
That's a really great point. And just so everybody knows, Peter and Luke are not affiliated with us in terms of selling our process or anything, just making sure that we're clarifying that to people. But I will take the opportunity to put a plug in for my process, because Peter mentioned process. And so it's basically, this is an example of what a process could be. So if you just go to our website, it's not a secret. We have a 9-step process to digital adoption. And for small to medium-sized businesses, we do the first 3 steps as part of the funding opportunity. And it really is all about taking your opinions, your insights, and then adding them to the mix. So our process is standard, but what's not standard is the information that you're providing to the process. And so that's a little short plug on, making sure that the process works for you, no matter who you want to work with, because we're not appropriate, like PACE is not appropriate to partner with every small to medium-sized business that maybe just, wants to just do marketing better or something. We're very much around thinking about the vision, like you mentioned, is understand, why do you want to get there, right? That's the first question you want to ask. Like, what are you trying to achieve? What does leadership believe they need to do? And then how do you measure success? And then, what's the process we can take to get there? So I think we're at the 45-minute mark. So I think and unless we get more questions in, I'm just going to ask for some closing remarks from each of you, and then we'll sort of seal up the conversation today. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. What we'll also do is we'll do little snippets out of each question, because you have added so much knowledge that a lot of businesses just would never have access to. So I think this is a super valuable contribution that you've really made, and it's available for free. We're not so it'll be available on our LinkedIn channel, and I'll get it to you guys to share further. If anybody asks you similar questions, then we go from there. So as a closing remark, I want to start with Peter.
I'll be really short on my closing remark. Thanks for the opportunity to discuss this with you. Hopefully some of this will help you be more competitive. Good luck.
Thanks, Peter. Luke?
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been very collaborative as always. The reason why this is such a big and important topic, it's because there's a certain level of urgency in all of this. You have to do this. You have to be digital dexterous. You have to do the adoption. You have to do all of this. Now, don't sweat it. It's just that start it. That's all. That's all you need to do, and that's why this is so important. So thanks, Nia, for really arranging this.
Thank you very much. And to Luke's point, when he says you have to start this, there I'm adding in a link to, and it's available there too, and it's to show you how to apply for the funding. So if you're interested in applying for the funding, the link is right there, and on the website. It's the most simplest process I've seen. When we talk about digital transformation, it's the first really simple funding application process that I've noticed, where businesses don't have to provide any real justification or something. If they meet a certain criteria, if they make over $500,000 a year and they have less than 500 employees, and you're a privately owned Canadian business, you can go in and apply for the funding. And the urgency, the three of us are from Northern Ontario. This is going to be broadcast wherever, but really we live in a little community called Northern Ontario, Sudbury, up north, but we have Timmins, Sault Ste. Marie. So these are fairly remote communities. And I think what my goal is to get as many people to apply for that funding as possible, regardless of whether they use us or not. There's 150 consultants on the list that are approved that you could go in and interview whomever. Business Development Bank of Canada is also a very very reputable organization that does these assessments and things like that. So definitely don't miss out on the opportunity to take your business to the next level, regardless of whom you're bringing on board and doing it with. So thank you very much for your time, Peter. Thank you very much for your time, Luke. And I have not forgotten, Digital Dexterity will be our next webinar. I'm pretty excited about that.